Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we begin a fresh and detailed journey into the history and significance of the Jefferson nickel, one of the longest-running and most culturally important coins in United States numismatic history, because since its introduction in 1938, the Jefferson 5-cent coin has served not only as everyday currency but also as a mirror reflecting changing American values, artistic priorities, political symbolism, and economic realities, and to truly understand why this coin deserves serious attention from collectors and history lovers alike, we must start by looking at the circumstances that led to its creation, as the Jefferson nickel replaced the Buffalo nickel, a beloved but impractical design that had circulated since 1913 and suffered from rapid with it often erased dates and details, prompting the U.S. Mint to seek a more durable and legible alternative. And this decision coincided with the expiration of the Buffalo nickel's 25-year design requirement, opening the door for a new coin that could better balance artistry with functionality, and the choice of Thomas Jefferson as the subject was deeply intentional, because Jefferson represented ideals of liberty, intellect, democracy, and national identity, serving as the principal author of the Declaration of Independence and the third President of the United States, making him a figure whose legacy extended far beyond politics into philosophy, education, and governance, and the design competition for the new nickel attracted several artists, but it was sculptor Felix Schlag who ultimately won, presenting a dignified left-facing portrait of Jefferson on the obverse and a detailed depiction of Monticello, Jefferson's Virginia home, on the reverse, and although Schlag's original reverse design was modified by the Mint for clarity and balance, the core concept remained intact, embedding the coin with architectural and historical symbolism that set it apart from previous designs. And when the Jefferson nickel was released into circulation in 1938, it immediately became a familiar presence in American life, used daily during a period that included the tail end of the Great Depression, World War II, post-war expansion, and profound social change, meaning that generations of Americans carried this coin through moments of hardship, recovery, and growth. And from a technical standpoint, the Jefferson nickel was composed primarily of copper and nickel, giving it durability and resistance to wear, a practical improvement over earlier designs. Yet even this composition was not immune to global events, as World War II forced the Mint to alter the coin's metal content between 1942 and 1945, replacing nickel with silver and manganese to conserve strategic materials for the war effort, creating the famous wartime silver nickels that today stand as some of the most historically significant issues in the series. And these changes were marked by large mint marks above Monticello on the reverse, a feature unique in U.S. coinage at the time and instantly recognizable to collectors. And beyond metal composition, the Jefferson nickel's long lifespan has allowed it to undergo subtle design modifications, minting improvements, and shifts in production philosophy, each of which reflects broader trends in American coinage, including the rise of mass production efficiency, evolving engraving standards, and later, a renewed emphasis on artistic detail and historical accuracy. And culturally, the Jefferson nickel occupies a special place because it is both ordinary and extraordinary, a coin so common that many people overlook it, yet so rich in history that careful study reveals layers of meaning connected to American identity, wartime sacrifice, architectural heritage, and the everyday economics of the 20th and 21st centuries. And as we move deeper into this series, it becomes clear that the Jefferson nickel is not merely a 5-cent piece, but a living timeline of American history struck in metal, setting the stage for a deeper exploration of varieties, mintages, errors, condition rarity, and long-term collector value in the continuation of this story. As the story of the Jefferson nickel continues, its evolution through changing decades reveals how a single coin can quietly adapt to shifting national priorities while maintaining a consistent identity, because once the Jefferson nickel entered circulation in 1938, it quickly became woven into the fabric of American daily life, passing through the hands of workers, soldiers, shopkeepers, and families during some of the most transformative moments of the 20th century. And this uninterrupted circulation gives the coin a unique continuity that few U.S. issues can match, and one of the most defining chapters in this journey emerged during World War II, when the demands of global conflict forced the United States government to reconsider how strategic metals were used, leading to the temporary removal of nickel from the 5-cent coin's composition. And between 1942 and 1945, Jefferson nickels were struck in a special wartime alloy containing silver, copper, and manganese, creating what collectors now call silver war nickels. And these coins are instantly recognizable by the large mint mark placed above Monticello on the reverse, a dramatic departure from previous mint mark placement and a powerful visual symbol of national mobilization. And beyond their silver content, these wartime nickels represent a moment when even the smallest denominations were directly shaped by global events, turning everyday change into a silent participant in history. And After the war ended, the Jefferson nickel returned to its original copper-nickel composition, but the experience left a lasting impression on collectors, because it demonstrated how flexible coinage could be when national survival was at stake, and moving forward into the post-war era, the Jefferson nickel continued to circulate heavily during a time of economic expansion, suburban growth, and rising consumer culture, meaning that coins from the 1950s and 1960s often show extensive wear. Reflecting their role in an increasingly cash-driven society, and during these decades, mintages rose dramatically, especially at the Philadelphia and Denver mints, while the San Francisco Mint gradually transitioned away from producing circulation nickels, setting the stage for later proof-only issues that would appeal primarily to collectors rather than the general public, and from a design standpoint, the Jefferson nickel remained remarkably consistent for decades, with only minor adjustments to lettering, relief, and strike quality, reinforcing its identity as a stable and familiar object. Yet beneath this surface consistency, subtle differences in die preparation, hub design, and production quality created a rich field for variety collectors, including changes in Monticello steps, window details, and overall sharpness, which would later become central to the concept of full steps, a designation that rewards coins with sharply defined steps on Monticello's staircase. And this focus on strike quality transformed how collectors evaluated Jefferson nickels, shifting attention from mere date and mint mark collecting toward condition rarity and technical excellence. And as the decades progressed, the Jefferson nickel also reflected broader changes in minting technology, including improved presses, better quality control, and higher production speeds, all of which influenced surface texture, luster, and consistency. And by the late 20th century, the coin had become both extremely familiar and increasingly underappreciated by the general public, even as collectors quietly recognized its depth and complexity. And this contrast between public indifference and collector fascination is one of the most interesting aspects of the Jefferson nickel story, because it highlights how historical significance is not always immediately obvious, and the coin's endurance into the modern era further strengthens its importance, as redesigns in the early 2000s briefly reimagined Jefferson's portrait and Monticello's depiction, reflecting a renewed interest in artistic variation and historical storytelling, before eventually returning to a refined, modernized version of the classic design, demonstrating the mint's respect for tradition while acknowledging contemporary tastes. And throughout all these changes, the Jefferson nickel has remained a constant presence, adapting quietly without losing its core identity, and this ability to evolve without erasing the past is what makes the Jefferson nickel such a powerful subject for collectors, historians, and storytellers alike, because every worn example, every sharply struck coin, and every subtle variation carries evidence of the era in which it was made, the technology that produced it, and the people who used it, ensuring that the Jefferson nickel is not just a coin, but a continuous narrative of American life expressed in metal. As the exploration of the Jefferson nickel moves into a more technical and collector-focused phase, attention turns to mintages, mint marks, production patterns, and the different ways collectors approach building meaningful sets, because while the Jefferson nickel is one of the most common U.S. coins by sheer numbers, its long production history and subtle complexities create a surprisingly rich landscape for detailed study. And understanding where and how these coins were made is essential for appreciating why some examples are far more desirable than others. And from the very beginning, Jefferson nickels were struck at multiple mints, primarily Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, with each facility contributing its own production characteristics. And although the coins share the same basic design, differences in striking pressure, die life, and quality control often resulted in noticeable variations in detail and surface quality, especially during periods of high demand. And mint marks, located on the reverse to the right of Monticello for most of the series, help collectors identify where a coin was produced, with Philadelphia issues traditionally lacking a mint mark until later decades, while Denver and San Francisco coins carry the D and S, respectively, and these small letters open the door to date and mint mark collecting, one of the most popular and accessible ways to approach the series. And while many dates are readily available in worn condition, assembling a complete set in uncirculated or high-grade condition becomes significantly more challenging, particularly for earlier issues and coins struck during periods of heavy circulation. And mintage figures themselves tell an important story, because they reflect economic conditions, population growth, and the mint's response to public demand, with certain years seeing extraordinarily high production to support a growing cash economy, while others experienced lower output due to recessions, wartime disruptions, or shifting mint priorities. And these fluctuations influence long-term availability, especially when combined with the reality that most Jefferson nickels circulated extensively and were not saved in large quantities until much later. And proof issues add another layer of complexity, as the San Francisco Mint began producing proof Jefferson nickels for collectors, offering coins with superior finish and detail that appeal to those who value aesthetics and precision. And although proof coins are generally easier to find in high quality, they present their own challenges, such as spotting, toning, or environmental damage caused by improper storage, reinforcing the importance of careful preservation even for modern issues. And from a collecting strategy standpoint, the Jefferson nickel offers remarkable flexibility, allowing collectors to pursue everything from simple date sets to advanced condition rarities, variety-focused collections, or thematic groupings, centered on wartime production or design changes. And this flexibility is one of the series' greatest strengths, because it welcomes beginners while still providing depth for experienced numismatists, and the coin's long lifespan also allows collectors to study how minting technology evolved over time, comparing early, softer strikes to later, sharper examples produced with improved equipment. And this technical progression adds an educational dimension that extends beyond the coin itself, illustrating how industrial capability and quality control improved across decades. And as collectors become more selective and informed, attention increasingly shifts toward originality, strike quality, and eye appeal, elevating certain Jefferson nickels from ordinary pocket change to respected collectibles. And this shift underscores an important truth about the series, that while the Jefferson nickel may appear common at first glance, its true value emerges through careful study, patience, and an appreciation for the subtle differences that separate the merely plentiful from the genuinely exceptional. As the Jefferson nickel story advances into a more specialized and analytical phase, the focus naturally turns toward varieties, errors, and condition-based scarcity, areas that transform this seemingly ordinary 5-cent coin into a field of serious numismatic study, because despite being mass-produced for everyday use, Jefferson nickels were struck over many decades using dies that wore out, presses that varied in pressure, and planchets that were not always perfectly prepared. And these realities created a wide range of imperfections and distinctions that collectors now actively seek. And among the most famous and important features in the series is the concept of full steps, which refers to the clarity and completeness of the steps at the base of Monticello on the reverse. And while the design always included these steps, they were often weakly struck or blurred due to die wear or insufficient striking pressure, making examples with 5 or 6 fully separated steps significantly scarcer than standard coins, especially for earlier dates. And this single design element dramatically reshaped how Jefferson nickels are evaluated, as coins with full steps can command substantial premiums even when the date itself is common, illustrating how condition rarity often outweighs mintage figures in determining value. And beyond full steps, the Jefferson nickel series is rich with double dies, repunched mint marks, over mint marks, and die clashes, each of which reflects a specific moment in the production process when something deviated from the intended standard. And double dies, which occur when a die receives multiple misaligned impressions during hubbing, can produce noticeable doubling on lettering, dates, or Jefferson's portrait, creating coins that are both visually striking and historically informative. While repunched mint marks, more common in earlier decades when mint marks were added to dies by hand, offer subtle yet rewarding challenges for collectors who enjoy close examination and comparison. And wartime silver nickels introduce another layer of complexity, as their unique alloy sometimes resulted in different striking characteristics, toning behavior, and surface texture compared to standard copper nickel issues, making them a distinct sub-series within the broader Jefferson nickel collection. And errors such as off-center strikes, clipped planchets, lamination flaws, and wrong planchet strikes, while not exclusive to Jefferson nickels, are nonetheless encountered within the series and provide dramatic examples of how even modern minting can produce unexpected results. And these error coins are often prized not only for their rarity but also for their ability to illustrate the mechanics of coin production in a tangible way. And condition remains a decisive factor across all categories, because most Jefferson nickels circulated heavily, resulting in widespread wear, contact marks, and surface dulling, making high-grade, well-struck examples far less common than raw survival numbers suggest. And this reality becomes especially apparent when studying certified population reports, which often show steep declines in availability at the highest mint state levels, reinforcing the idea that scarcity is often created after minting rather than at the moment of production. And the growing interest in Jefferson nickel varieties and errors reflects a broader trend in numismatics, where collectors seek individuality, technical insight, and storytelling rather than just age or precious metal content. And within this context, the Jefferson nickel stands out as a series that rewards patience, education, and careful observation, proving that even the most familiar coins can reveal extraordinary complexity when examined closely. And in doing so, it continues to attract new generations of collectors who find satisfaction in uncovering hidden details within a coin that once passed unnoticed through everyday life. As the Jefferson nickel enters its long-term and forward-looking perspective, it becomes clear that this coin's greatest strength lies in its endurance, adaptability, and deep connection to everyday American life, because few U.S. coins have remained in continuous production for so many decades while still retaining their core identity. And this longevity transforms the Jefferson nickel from a simple 5-cent piece into a living historical record that spans generations, economic cycles, wars, cultural shifts, and technological change, and from a collector's standpoint, this continuity creates a powerful sense of narrative, allowing the Jefferson nickel to serve as a timeline of American society where each date and mint mark represents a specific moment in national history, and one of the most important aspects shaping the future significance of the Jefferson nickel is its accessibility. Because, unlike rare gold or early silver coins that are out of reach for many collectors, Jefferson nickels remain affordable in most grades, inviting new collectors into numismatics and encouraging hands-on learning rather than distant observation, and this accessibility ensures that interest in the series is constantly renewed as younger collectors discover its depth and gradually move from casual accumulation to focused study, and as knowledge spreads, appreciation increasingly shifts toward quality, originality, and strike sharpness rather than sheer quantity, elevating well-preserved examples and full steps coins into a category of their own, and this gradual refinement of collector taste plays a key role in long-term value stability, because coins that are respected for their technical merit and historical context tend to maintain relevance even when market trends fluctuate, and another crucial factor influencing the Jefferson nickel's future is its educational value, as it is frequently used by teachers, parents, and museums to introduce concepts such as wartime, resource conservation, minting technology, and the symbolism of national figures, with the wartime silver nickels in particular serving as tangible evidence of how global conflict can directly influence everyday objects, and this educational role strengthens the coin's cultural importance beyond the collector market, embedding it within broader historical understanding. And as time moves forward and fewer people have direct memory of earlier circulation eras, the Jefferson nickel increasingly transitions from a familiar pocket coin into a studied artifact, a shift that often marks the beginning of deeper scholarly and institutional interest, and this process is already visible in the way advanced collectors document die varieties, strike characteristics, and production anomalies, contributing to a growing body of research that enhances the series' legitimacy and complexity. And from a preservation perspective, modern awareness of proper storage and handling is also reshaping the series' future, because collectors now recognize that originality and natural surfaces are far more valuable than artificially enhanced appearance, leading to greater respect for coins that honestly reflect their age and use, and this emphasis on authenticity aligns perfectly with the Jefferson nickel's character as a working coin meant to be used rather than admired in isolation. And when all these elements are considered together, the Jefferson nickel emerges as a model of sustainable collectability, offering historical depth, technical challenge, and emotional connection without relying on extreme rarity or precious metal content, and this balance ensures that the series remains relevant, engaging, and meaningful for generations to come, positioning the Jefferson nickel not just as a common denomination, but as one of the most complete and rewarding stories in American coinage history. As the journey of the Jefferson nickel reaches its concluding reflection, it becomes evident that this modest 5-cent coin holds a significance far greater than its face value, because over the decades it has quietly absorbed the imprint of American life, serving as both a tool of commerce and a silent witness to history. And what ultimately elevates the Jefferson nickel in the eyes of collectors and historians alike is not rarity alone, but its role as a connector between generations, economies, and ideals, since few coins have passed through as many hands or remained relevant for as long without losing their fundamental identity, and this continuity gives the Jefferson nickel a uniquely human character, reflecting the rhythms of everyday transactions alongside moments of national crisis and transformation, and from a historical standpoint, the coin encapsulates a wide spectrum of American experience, from the optimism of the late 1930s to the sacrifices of World War II, the prosperity and challenges of the post-war era, and the evolving artistic sensibilities of the modern age, all expressed through subtle changes in metal composition, strike quality, and design execution, and this layered history ensures that the Jefferson nickel remains an endlessly interpretable object, inviting new questions and perspectives as cultural values shift over time, and for collectors. This interpretive richness is one of the series' greatest strengths, because it allows each individual to find meaning at their own level, whether through completing a simple date set, hunting for full steps examples, studying wartime alloys, or researching die varieties and production anomalies, and this flexibility makes the Jefferson nickel both approachable and profound, capable of supporting lifelong engagement without becoming inaccessible or intimidating. And as the numismatic community continues to grow more informed and interconnected through digital platforms, shared research, and educational content, appreciation for the Jefferson nickel's complexity is likely to deepen, reinforcing its status as a cornerstone of U.S. coin collecting rather than a background piece, and preservation will play an increasingly important role in this process, as collectors recognize that coins which retain their natural surfaces, honest wear, and original character communicate history far more authentically than those altered for superficial appeal, and this respect for authenticity aligns seamlessly with the Jefferson nickel's identity as a working coin shaped by use rather than luxury, and looking ahead, the Jefferson nickel's future appears stable and meaningful, supported by its long production run, its association with one of America's most influential founding figures, and its ability to tell both grand and ordinary stories through small details. And as time continues to add distance between the present and the coin's earliest years, the Jefferson nickel will increasingly be viewed not as common change, but as a compact historical archive that preserves the texture of everyday American life, reminding us that history is often carried forward not by monumental artifacts, but by simple objects that endure through constant use, and in that endurance lies the Jefferson nickel's true legacy, a legacy built on continuity, adaptability, and connection, making it one of the most quietly powerful coins in U.S. numismatic history. Thanks for watching.